Clive Barker's Hellraiser never shied from being brutal, gory, or outright horrific, yet Hellraiser Bestiary still finds room to surprise. This 6-issue miniseries drifts outside of strict continuity and slices its own path through a world filled with Leviathan's minions. 18 separate nightmarish stories crowd the pages, but one story stitches them together. This continuous thread is about a ruthless crew that steals every chrome pin from Pinhead's head. Their heist winds across every issue, thereby anchoring the anthology while new voices circle the box. Writers such as Brisson and Michael Moreci, both fresh to the franchise, share space with veteran talent, and that blend pulls odd energy from familiar parts. Some pieces chase Barker's tone, others swing wide open and into territory that hasn't yet been explored in any of the Hellraiser installments, be it comics or movies, and still, the whole project keeps Barker's fingerprints smudged on every panel. For horror readers who love short shocks or fans who crave new angles on the Hell Priest, this book holds plenty of dark corners to explore. And in this video, we're going to explore each of these 18 stories, but before that, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. These may be 2 small clicks from you, but for us, they help tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. So now, let's begin. Symphony in Red. In Symphony in Red, chaos is not a figure of speech. Pinhead has crawled back from Earth and now stalks the endless corridors of Leviathan's labyrinth, handing out punishment to every poor soul in sight. The tale is narrated through the eyes of the female Cenobite, who feels a mix of relief and worry. Relief because their high priest has returned, worry because he has zero interest in ceremony. While the labyrinth echoes with his victim's screams, word spreads that the priest is home. Cenobites pour in from every shadowed corner, eager for a glimpse. Their numbers swell by the day, yet Pinhead keeps swinging hooks rather than delivering sermons. Since touching down in hell, the guy has reaped more sinners in 48 hours than most of his immortal peers accomplish across millennia. That stat hits hard, because Cenobites never die, which means they clock serious centuries. The female tries to tug his focus back to the waiting crowd, but his gaze never shifts from fresh bodies. Pinhead moves with a cold precision, slicing, chaining, ripping. He wants volume, nothing fancy, only a mountain of broken sinners and a river of blood. Patience thins with each passing moment. Doubts sprout with every blow that Pinhead lands. Is their priest even back, or is this just hype? Soon, camps full. Each faction claims it deserves first audience. Soon, blades flash, hooks snap, and Hell's faithful shred one another for a front row view. Irony drips thicker than the gore. They spill their own essence as tribute, yet their idol stays silent. Through it all, female Cenobite watches horror bleed into frustration. She also notices the oddest twist, Pinhead's face. Pinhead, Lord of Pain, cracks a grin. He smiles, not a smug curl, but a full, pleased smile that freezes the female in place. He stands ankle-deep in offal, red mist clinging to his robes, and beams like an artist admiring a finished canvas. Dismembered limbs float, viscera splatters walls, and the priest's pins shine under slick layers of crimson. Only after he feels the balance tip, enough corpses to drown a fresh victim, does he wipe his tools and agree to speak. The movies depict Pinhead's cruelty pretty well, yet this comic blows the doors off. It shows a predator addicted to excess, a priest who values massacre over liturgy. His grin seals the point. Carnage excites him more than worship. When he finally strides towards the battered congregation, caked in blood and victory, the reader grasps the raw truth. Hell does not serve faith, faith serves Hell's hungriest butcher. Desert Fathers. Our next stop is on the ragtag edge of New York City at Laurelton Family Center, a halfway house that looks wholesome until you smell the rot. A staffer greets new arrivals, then explains the single most important rule: keep off the 6th floor. That level belongs to a wasted thrill seeker in a wheelchair who lives for high-pain sessions with his dominatrix, Sandy. She barges in with her boyfriend Danny, and the pair shove their client down a shaft, snapping him like dry twigs. In his suite, they find his prized lament configuration, proof the old man mixed sadism with heavy occult play. The Desert Fathers once said the wicked act as doors for evil. Sandy and Danny prove the slogan true the moment they twist the puzzle box. A beast bursts out, half bat, half xenomorph, all teeth. It rips the corridors apart and splashes the walls red. Screams echo through Laurelton, yet the men who actually run the shelter step in. They're monks, spiritual heirs to those desert wanderers, and they lasso the monster with barbed chains, forcing it to kneel. The demon folds in on itself, skin peels, and a ragged homeless figure rises from the gore. He only wants the box. Monks hand it over. He mutters a promise never to return and slips away into the city night. Colin Lorimer's art nails every wide-eyed stare, every shred of flying viscera, and every twitch of that awful grin the creature flashes before it goes. The Hunted, Part 1. Inside a gutted warehouse, a jittery crook pops open a puzzle box, certain that Pinhead is going to appear and drag him to hell. Pinhead does show up, but the crook is bait. Steel bars plated with dozens of tiny crosses slam down from the rafters, caging the High Priest of Hell. A violet energy dome seals the floor, automatic rifles bark, holy etched rounds slam into Pinhead's chest, and for a breath, he staggers. The ambushers roll out from cover, a crew of mercs backed by a silent money man. Cross symbols sear Pinhead's flesh so he cannot touch, let alone bend the bars. They clap chain cuffs on him, each link stamped with a crucifix, and start their grim harvest. Why risk this madness? A shadowy benefactor pays 100 grand for every pin in Pinhead's skull. The crew measure the angle of each spike, eager to pop them free. While they gloat, Pinhead studies weld seams, memorizes bullet rhythms, and waits. As you may have guessed by now, this story here will run through all 6 issues, find a conclusion at the very end of the 6th issue. This is also where the first issue of the 6-issue miniseries comes to an end, and it's a bit of a thrilling one. Old Hat to Raise the Devil. The first story of the 2nd issue rewinds back to 1940, deep between the Yazoo and Mississippi rivers, where dusty crossroads birthed the blues. Calvin, a wandering guitarist drenched in guilt, kneels at a moonlit intersection. Legends swear the devil deals here, swapping talent for souls, yet Calvin does not beg for fame or skill. He craves one single living moment with Clara, the sweetheart he strangled in a jealous rage. Headlights slice through the mist, a sleek sedan skids, and Calvin's felt hat flattens under rubber. The driver steps out, slick as oil, and reads the scene at a glance. He hands Calvin a polished guitar with silver fretwork that echoes the lament configuration. Strings hum like chains, body curves like a puzzle box. Calvin strums one chord and feels the neck warm under his fingers. Pinhead materializes with his entourage, the Chatterer, Butterball, and the female Cenobite, and they look nothing like the red-tailed devil that Calvin was expecting. Pinhead says the wish lies within his power, but demands more flesh than one killer can offer. Calvin, desperate, nods. For 4 nights, he drags that cursed guitar through every juke joint on the Delta, playing riffs that ignite slaughter. Patrons dance, skin tears, hooks whirl, and each bar turns into a meat locker. Blood pools knee-deep while Calvin grinds chord after chord, eyes fixed on the promise. On the 5th dawn, Pinhead returns. Clara stands beside him, frozen with terror in the Chatterer's grip, throat purple from where Calvin squeezed the life out of him. The sight cracks Calvin's heart, yet revelation hits harder. It was his own hands that ended Clara. Hell merely watched. Sin demands payment, and Pinhead collects. Chains snake around Calvin, twist through muscle, and draw him into the guitar's sound hole, now gapes like a vertical maw. Strings snap, wood folds, and silence falls over the crossroad. Calvin gets his moment with Clara, locked inside eternal torment where apology means nothing, forgiveness never arrives. Hellbound Desires. This one opens up with a girl in a black t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans standing in a room on a chair. She introduces herself. Hi, I am Lizzie Lust, and you're watching Hellbound Desires. We don't think it takes Sherlock Holmes to figure out that our girl Lizzie is a porn star. The man behind the camera asks her to explain what she would be doing. She goes, well, I'm gonna get tied up. I'm probably gonna get spanked and flogged, you know, S&M and bondage stuff. So Lizzie was into some pretty kinky stuff, but she was still unaware as to how bad it was gonna get for her. The camera guy reminds her that if anything during the course of the video got too much for her to handle, she had a safe word, which was red. The camera guy then instructs her to take her shirt off, and she obliges like the good little girl she is. Next, it's turn for her pants to come off, and once again, she doesn't hesitate. Lizzie had the beautiful body of a young woman and was tattooed all over. Next, the man comes up to her while she's seated on the chair and says, take this. It seemed for a moment that he was offering himself to her, but no, he was giving her the lament configuration. He wanted her to solve the puzzle box, which, quite frankly, puzzled Lizzie. I mean, who gets a porn star to solve a puzzle on camera? But people have weird fetishes, and she was being paid, so she got to solving the lament configuration. She was about to solve it when the cameraman left the room, claiming that he would soon be back. Next thing we know, Lizzie's torso is torn to pieces by chains that come out of the puzzle box. She kept screaming the safe word, red, 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 but nothing. She received no help. The torture didn't stop. As the cameraman watched the TV screen from another room, he saw Pinhead and the female Cenobite appear in the room, and behind him, he saw hooked chains, waiting to do what they did to Lizzie. The Hunted, Part 2. The ambush that floored Pinhead last issue rips him apart here. The Merc group do the unthinkable. They wrench every spike from his head, 138 in total, and pocket a slick 13 million from their mystery boss. Minus his medal, the High Priest looks like a raw, dazed patient, miles from the swaggering nightmare we know. Mears, Miller, and Magno sketch each thug with sharp quirks so no one blends into action flick wallpaper. For the first time, Pinhead feels helpless. Cross-etched bars still cage him, rifle smoke still hangs, and the crew lights fuses to torch the hideout. They stride off, certain the legend will roast before dawn. Flames climb, beams crash, yet his brain keeps cutting angles. Pinhead crawls through the rubble, clocks a weak wall, and slides free with seconds to spare. No hooks, no hellfire, just grit. What follows flips the entire myth. Instead of warping back to Leviathan, Pinhead limps towards the one earthly fortress soaked in ritual pain that rivals his own creed, the Vatican. Centuries of monks whipping flesh have steeped those halls in prime agony, a power source he can tap. He plans to trade vulnerability for fresh charge and hunt down every thief who cashed in on his crown. The chapter closes on the irony that the King of Chain Torment is seeking sanctuary under marble saints. Pins gone, pride dented, yet those coal black eyes still plot. Puzzled. Issue 3 opens with a gut punch. Writer Ben Mears, artist Akil Guzman, and color wizard Matt Battaglia drop us into Dale's cramped flat where every surface hides dent marks from his autistic son Jeremy. Puzzles soothe the boy better than meds. Shape cubes calm him. Sliding toy tiles hush tantrums, and Rubik's cubes give Dale a few precious silent minutes. Desperate for a new brain teaser, Dale raids a dingy pawn shop and lugs home a lacquered wooden box etched with strange loops. The shopkeeper called it a puzzle that never repeats itself. Jeremy's eyes light up. Clicks echo through the sitting room. Blood smears the wallpaper. In one blink, the child vanishes, leaving only a tacky crimson stain. Dale screams. Neighbors pound on the door, but nobody sees the terror in reality where Pinhead steps through. The High Priest expects sin-soaked adults, not an innocent 8-year-old. Hell's code says children ride free, yet this child treats the box like a best mate. Pinhead senses promise, maybe even a future partner able to crack puzzles faster than any Cenobite. The chapter ends with Jeremy drifting in a gray limbo beside the black-robed demon, both staring at infinite configurations that hum like beehives. Conduit. The Middle Tale by Ed Brisson, artist Alexis Zirit, and colorist Felipe Sobrero exchanges parental terror for relationship decay. Phil and Sarah hit pause on their marriage. She hides at her parents' place while he tinkers in a garage crammed with copper coils, code printouts. Phil swears his prototype puzzle box will spark the next tech wave. Nobody else even knows it exists. One midnight, his phone blares. A video shows Sarah sobbing in a dim room, chains clattering behind her. Another clip shows hooks grazing her shoulder. Phil drives 3 hours on fumes, barges into the guest room, and finds a dried blood halo on the rug. His sleek silver prototype sits in the center, open. The phone rings. Sarah's voice crackles through the static, ending with a wet crunch. Leather-clad Cenobites ripple from the darkness. They never explain why Phil tops their hit list. Maybe he rewrote the box's code, maybe Sarah solved it off-screen, or maybe future doom spills backward and blames the engineer. Phil lunges with a screwdriver, lands one stab that draws tar-black ichor from a grinning Cenobite lip, but hooks catch him mid-swing. The story cuts out there, questions dangling like loose wires. Did Phil's game change the rules? Did Sarah invite the pain herself? The art's wild neon strokes crank tension high, then leave it buzzing. The Hunted. Part 3. The closer drags us back to the last issue's charred warehouse. Mercs harvested 100+ pins from Pinhead's skull, carving chunks of flesh when metal refused to budge. And then they sold the lot for 13 million. The Cenobite King now hobbles through soot like a raw-nerved scarecrow. Pain equals breath to him, yet weakness feels alien. He vows payback. Eye for eye, ruin for ruin. Sirens echo. Flames lick broken beams. He nearly steps into the blaze, a crimson baptism, and catches a familiar tang. His own blood, still wet on stolen pins. He trails the scent into an alley where the Merc crew huddles around a black sedan. A Vatican cardinal in scarlet robes counts trophies, slides fat envelopes across the boot lid, praises their holy service. Is he the buyer or a courier for someone higher? Either way, Rome now owns a sack of infernal hardware. Pinhead clenches burned fists. No hooks, no chains, but fury makes tools of trash. He rips cloth from a curtain, wraps wounds, and limps off. Destination, the Vatican itself. Centuries of monks have bled inside those marble halls. Ritual pain there runs thick as altar wine. He will drink that sorrow, forge fresh weapons from relic iron, and visit his own stations of the cross upon every soul who thought holiness could leash hell. The panel fades on his silhouette merging with the city shadows, promising a reckoning heavier than stone saints. These 3 snapshots shove new grit into Hellraiser lore. One sees an autistic boy enchant Pinhead with pure puzzle genius. Another turns a failing marriage into a glitching video nightmare tied to a designer box. The last strips the legend to raw flesh and points him at Rome's guarded gates. Study! Marion Railsby drifts through life with her gaze locked on Sophie Beauchamp, a sociocultural anthropologist who dissects pain, scar tissue, and ritual piercings the way botanists press flowers. Sophie claims agony peels back masks and shows the real self. Marion calls that theory beautiful. She shadows Sophie to cafes, seminars, then to an underground S&M club flickering with red bulbs and moans. Catwalk cages dangle overhead and a woman's chest bristles with silver pins. Marion loses sight of Sophie, then a note flutters into her hand. She waits below. Down a narrow stairwell, she finds Sophie shackled, calm, and eager. Instead of pleading for rescue, Sophie asks Marion to solve a lacquered puzzle box that sits at her feet. Marion's fingers tremble but turn the panels. Clicks echo like distant bells. Chains burst from dark corners, hooks bite flesh, and Sophie shudders in scholarly awe. Her grand study begins with her own screams. Marion realizes love sometimes opens doors that should stay shut, yet the sight of Sophie meeting her truth feels, to Marion, almost holy. And God will send his angels. Rebecca shares a crumbling house with her late mother's brother, a drunk whose belt whistles more often than his breath. The attic stays padlocked, which only feeds curiosity. One afternoon, Rebecca slips up the ladder and finds a small ornate cube wrapped in her mother's scarf. Before she can inspect it, thunderous footsteps drive her back to her room. She prays hard, begs Jesus for avenging angels, but the ceiling stays silent. Night falls, whiskey knocks the uncle out cold. Rebecca creeps upstairs, twists the cube, and hears a soft chime. Walls split, blue light spills, Pinhead strides in with his gash behind him. He asks why an innocent girl would summon Hell's engineers. Rebecca pleads for mercy. Pinhead quotes the order's rule: true innocents stay untouched. The female Cenobite asks how she got the box. Rebecca answers, it was my mother's. Pinhead corrects her. The box belongs to no one. It's a doorway, nothing more. Beneath them, floorboards groan. The uncle staggers in and freezes at the sight of leather, hooks, and eyes that glitter like black glass. Rebecca whispers for help. Protecting the innocent interests Pinhead. Tormenting the wicked thrills him. Chains lash forward, pierce the uncle, and drag him towards a horizon of endless knives. Rebecca watches, trembling yet unharmed, and wonders if her prayer reached heaven or somewhere deeper. The Hunted, Part 4. Beneath Vatican marble, a mercenary crew argues with their crimson-robed buyer. They sliced 138 pins from Pinhead's skull and demand $13,800,000. Cardinal balks. He never asked for every spite. 10 pins will do, he says, and offers a trimmed purse. The crew's leader reminds him that they stand inside a place funded by tithes. Pay up or watch the loot hit the black market. Behind the cracked stone, Pinhead listens. Scalp raw, power drained, he plots 3 steps. Reclaim the pins, recharge, then repay every insult. The standoff flares as guards raise rifles. Amid the noise, Pinhead slips a hand through crate slats and touches one familiar spike. Iron meets flesh, and power trickles back like hot mercury. With fresh resolve, he lunges, shoves the Cardinal into the hail of bullets meant for him. Holy brocade shreds, the Cardinal gurgles, and Pinhead thanks him for the shield and works more spikes into his head, each click stronger than the last. Panic erupts. Lead flattens against a gathering aura. One thug bolts, a newly conjured chain snatches his ankle and lets gravity crack bone. 2 more drop magazines, pray, and flee into corridors laced with Latin scripture, now reads like graffiti. Pinhead steps over the Cardinal's corpse, pockets still sticky envelopes, and etches a single line in blood on the wall: an eye for an eye. Sirens echo above, but guards will only find death and absence. He limps into the Roman night, a scarred saint, half restored, craving full resurrection. The path ahead glitters with relic iron and centuries of ritual pain. When the last pin returns home, the world's holiest address will echo with chains. Don't look. Manuel first waved off Kate's fears as stress, but the pattern grew too weird to shrug away. She swore that random print, shopping ads, sports pages, bus schedules, they kept sliding into secret warnings. Letters tilted, ink dripped, phrases whispered, they watch you, don't look. When Manuel saw the same warped line on a billboard, skepticism cracked. He drove Kate to Danvers State Hospital's mental wing, signed papers, and told himself padded walls beat unknown claws. Kate begged to leave. Manuel held firm, trusting the chief psychiatrist's calm voice. The doctor spoke of a shared psychosis, advised Manuel to starve it by ignoring every odd symbol. Yet doubt nagged. So he walked corridors after visiting hours. He caught male attendants reading scrap notes, then strolling glass-eyed, face slack, as if someone switched off their souls. That night, Manuel spread Kate's scribbles on the kitchen table beside his own. Together, the fragments built one sentence: open the door before they drag you blind. Floorboards creaked. An attendant from Danvers stood in the lounge, eyes black as tar, skin sagging like wax. He drenched the notes in petrol, tossed a match, and watched flames climb. Manuel dove through a window, rolled across the lawn, and ran until charcoal smoke faded. He slipped back into Danvers through a service door. Lights flickered. Patients and staff stood rigid, pupils swallowed by darkness. They chanted under their breath, words Manuel could not place. At the ward's center, Kate drifted naked, glyphs cut into her skin. Manuel shook her shoulders. She kept turning the lament configuration with sure fingers. Click, slide, twist, too fast for a first-timer. Walls split, blue light poured in. Pinhead and his crew stepped out. Manuel begged. Pinhead ignored. The chief psychiatrist bowed, offering Kate as tribute. Hooks lashed, chains snapped, Kate's screams ended as quickly as they began. Pinhead thanked his servant. Leviathan's tithe was paid. Days later, police would find Manuel catatonic in a padded room. The doctor testified that Manuel torched his home and murdered his wife. Case closed. No mortal authority questioned a loyal agent of hell. Folie à deux. A duplex on Maple Street housed two couples. Bert with partner Cliff in one unit, Joel with boyfriend Gar in the other. Joel fought cravings alone, so Bert checked in often with soup and quiet jokes. One visit found Joel poring over The Winding Way, a cracked leather tome etched with looping rail lines. Cliff drifted over curious. They read a passage aloud, living room blurred. In its place rose a fog-choked station where lamp-eyed hounds prowled and whistles shook bone. Gar slammed the book shut, dragging them back to reality. All three sported soot on palms none could explain. Later, Joel confessed the station master spoke through the walls, offering relief from thirst if he listened. Bert heard the same bassy voice under the floorboards promising peace. He fetched Cliff and Gar. Midnight air charged when they reopened the book. Ink rippled, paragraphs rearranged, and the station master stepped out, his coat sewn from ticket stubs, face hidden behind a mirror mask. The volume, they realized too late, was a paper lament configuration, and its steward had come to punch tickets. Chains whirred from nowhere, weaving metal through muscle. Bert and Joel fused shoulder to shoulder. Gar and Cliff slammed the cover down again, but iron barbs shot out, stitching lovers into a four-limbed sculpture. Screams merged into one ragged note. Dawn's first responders found a single torso, two heads, and pairs of arms knotted like pretzels. A rookie medic whispered, "Slice it how you want, you still serve nightmare stew." The Haunted, Part 5. Four mercenaries bolted through the Vatican tunnels after selling Pinhead's stolen pins to a cardinal. Shotguns barked, marble chipped. Their leader bragged about torching cities, called Pinhead a roach under heel. None noticed the figure stalking behind pillars, scalp raw, eyes ember bright. No hooks answered his will, power still drained, so he forged a blade from his own body. Fingers probed between ribs, white shard cracked free. Blood dashed across vestments, yet pain only sharpened focus. A rear guard's breath ended when the bone spike kissed his spine. Pinhead caught the falling rifle, sank the muzzle under the chin of the woman beside him, and squeezed. Two corpses dropped. The leader spun, saw shadows only. Nervous sweat replaced his swag. Pinhead dove through a rotten archway into a reliquary packed with torture relics seized during brutal inquisitions. Claw tongs, thumb screws, iron maidens. At the center rested a black velvet box under decades of dust. Brass edges shimmered like familiar sin. Gunfire chewed plaster. Pinhead crawled and solved the pattern on instinct. Plates slid, locks hissed, and the air thickened as rattling iron echoed down stone halls. His gash had answered. The merc leader stepped through the doorway, shotgun trembling, and froze at silhouettes that peeled from darkness. Chatterer, female, butterball, all hungry for overdue interest. First hook tore the gun aside, second hook snagged flesh. Pinhead stood, pressing reclaimed power into fresh wounds, his pins glowing as they re-entered his skin. The leader screamed once before chains ripped him apart. Pinhead eyed the cardinal's corpse 2 corridors back and smiled. Vatican marble now served as his forge. Relic iron would soon bend into new tools. Needless to say, in every corner, hidden messages, whispering books, forbidden catacombs, the lament configuration waits. Ignore the signs and you stay blind. Read them and doors open wide. Hell rarely needs to force entry when curiosity, faith, and greed keep turning the lock. On that note, let's move on to the final entry of this mini-series. A place for everything. The neighborhood looked lifted from a bank brochure. Lawns were measured to the inch, driveways gleamed, kids were selling lemonade behind identical smiles. In the middle of suburbia sat a peeling bungalow with curtains that never parted. Folks whispered the owner's name when pruning roses, but never loud enough to reach her porch. The old woman felt those sideways looks, yet held tighter to her private treasures. She had collected secrets since childhood, stuffing them into cardboard boxes each time her mother shoved their lives into another trailer. Whenever rent lapsed and movers tossed furniture, the girl saved whatever fit in a shoebox because lost houses mattered less than memories she could touch. Adulthood gifted her a quiet librarian job and, better still, a steady paycheck. She rented a clean place, shelved books by day, then met John, a night shift security guard who smelled of coffee and frank talk. Marriage followed, then a mortgage on the faded bungalow. 2 children arrived. Sally splashed in bathtubs till her fingers pruned. John Jr. clung to his mother's skirt and cried at broken toys. The woman watched their tiny bodies grow, felt panic bloom. What if memories slipped away like old apartments? So she started hoarding. First came finger paint doodles, then every report card, school certificate, baby sock, half-chewed teething ring, each tucked into labeled trunks. John complained the hallway shrank, begged her to toss junk. Sally rolled eyes when friends begged to visit. John Jr. tripped over stacked boxes, snapped at the smell of dust. Their words bounced off the woman's resolve. She saw only anchors keeping love from drifting. She told Sally that she didn't prefer objects over people. The objects were part of the people. She only felt whole when everything rested in its rightful place. One winter, she gazed at her crammed living room and sensed the layout still wrong. John loved that room. He sat there every night. So she laid his body on the sofa, stiff, cooling, and with a purple throat. His eyes had widened when she swung the heavy bookend, but shock passed quickly. Now, he belonged to the space he adored. Sally's turn came next. The girl had splashed in the tub as a baby, chased bubbles till bedtime. The mother filled the bath, pressed Sally under, then eased her child's limp frame onto porcelain. John Jr. shook and sobbed in the hallway. The woman stroked his hair, hushed him, then tucked him into a cedar chest where mothballs once slept. He always wanted to stay close to mother. Now, he would never leave. Blood dried. Air grew thick, yet still she sensed cramped corners. She needed more room, more shelving, more silence between stacks of memory. In the darkest hour, a shape arrived, pins gleaming under stale lamplight. Pinhead whispered of vast chambers, labyrinth halls where nothing ever moved unless she chose. She traded the bungalow for passage below. Hell stretched endless and empty, waiting for her collections. She stepped through a door of chains, purse clutched, heart light, sure she finally had a place for everything and time to fill every corner. The science of madness. Bright fluorescent tubes hummed above a sterile lab, bouncing harsh light off a lone wooden puzzle box locked under glass. Dr. Henley stared at the lament configuration like a priest at forbidden scripture. X-rays refused to reveal gears. Density scans lied about the weight. The box defied science, and that, he insisted, meant breakthrough. His director stalked in daily, muttering about wasted grants. Henley kept arguing that simple wood cannot bend physics, so something hidden inside, something worth careers. The director repeated the rule: observe, never touch. Frustration gnawed holes in Henley's patience. One night, after the night shift clocked out, he unlocked a cabinet, smashed the display cover, and lifted the cube. Surprising warmth pulsed through wood grain. Panels slid under twitching thumbs. A low click echoed. Lab lights dimmed and tiny hooks darted from shadow, ripping lab coats and flaying skin. Colleagues who had stayed late for paperwork screamed as barbed chains into ceiling vents. Blood mist settled on centrifuges. Pinhead arrived, surveying wreckage like a museum curator. The female Cenobite prepared to savor the carnage, but Pinhead raised a hand. Madness dulled flavor, he said, and Henley's mind already cracked. The scientist laughed at torn flesh, scribbled formulas in blood, babbled about impossible mass. He had crossed from curiosity to outright insanity, and no gift piercing pain could grant would matter. Pinhead deemed the harvest wasted, stepped back through a tear in space, and left a laughing shell among the ruins of method and grant money. The Hunted, Part 6. Deep beneath Vatican marble, alarms wailed. Security feeds showed Pinhead's gash swirling through catacomb dust like a black tide, hooks clattering, and relic cases shattering. Someone hit a red button labeled Damnation Protocol. Loudspeakers ordered staff to evacuate. Centuries of priests had rehearsed for an outbreak they never truly believed would come. Moments earlier, the mercenary leader had stared into the faces of the summoned Cenobites, shotgun ripped from his grasp by a living chain. His partners lay in pieces across gold leaf floor tiles. He considered flight, but where does one run when walls lock down and every corridor feeds back to horror? He bolted anyways, boots skidding on marble. Pinhead ignored fleeing prey long enough to reclaim stolen pins. Each spike slid home with a soft hiss, spreading new power through scar tissue. Rage stabilized into icy focus. He barked orders. His followers scooped holy artifacts into sacks, splinters of the true cross, chalices, stoles, all trophies for Leviathan's vault. Swiss guards stormed the passage, rifles snapping. Bullets pinged off invisible walls. A hook catches one guard by the hip and drags him screaming into the dark. Another chain loops around the merc leader's ankles, flipping him headlong into a wooden crucifix. Pinhead loomed, eyes like midnight coals, then hoisted the man onto an iron lattice once used for exorcism restraint. Spikes nailed wrists. The Cenobites studied his captive's panic, then drove a final pin through the man's tongue, stapling half-formed apologies to palate. Outside, cathedral bells tolled evacuation rhythm. Tourists flooded St. Peter's Square, snapping photos without realizing why guards shoved them away. Underground, Pinhead strode through smoke and shattered icons, gloved hands turning relics over like junk store trinkets. He declared the hall sufficient. Chains tore new rifts to the labyrinth. The crucified leader dangled, bleeding onto marble that may never scrub clean. His last sight was Pinhead disappearing with treasure and disciples, leaving Vatican security to explain empty display cases and 24 missing bodies. Back in hellish corridors, Pinhead placed reclaimed pins onto a stone altar, tapped each until it rang true. Revenge felt heavy yet delicious, though part of him still contemplated that early question. Why had church officials needed only 10 pins? What right brewed in candlelit chambers above? He promised himself a return visit once rumors reached his throne. For now, satisfaction rode high. Enemies lay ruined, artifacts lay in Hell's archive, and the box, captured again during the chaos, rested inside his paw. Marvelous verdict! Boom Studios packs the series with highs, lows, and razor curves. Issue number 1 was a fast one with mercenaries stealing Pinhead's pins and chaos overflowing through the pages into cracked brick and New York grime. The same debut gives novelist Victor Laval his first comics credit, which adds street-level grit that feels fresh. Symphony in Red, though, leans too far from the Hell Priest's core, so the opener wobbles after that early roar. Issue number 2 drags a dusty crossroads into view. Old Hat to Raise the Devil mixes 1940s Delta blues with demonic craftsmanship, and the riff lands clean. The running heist arc pauses, but the mood stays thick. Issue 3 has the anthology's tender side. Puzzled lets an autistic boy's love of logic touch the puzzle box, heartbreak follows. The backup tale, Conduit, tries for dread yet stumbles. Its rushed line work scrapes against the smoother stories around it. Issue number 4 digs inward. Study wants to probe obsession, yet thin character notes blunt the edge. In the same book, And God Will Send His Angels, misunderstands why Cenobites tempt rather than protect, and the plot buckles. Issue number 5 swings back towards promise. Don't Look presents potent atmosphere but needs extra pages to breathe, while Folie deux merges shared psychosis with hook and chain logic in ways that are both eerie and messy. Issue number 6 closes the ride. A Place for Everything stands tall, delivering a hoarder's nightmare that sticks after lights out. The Science of Madness earns points for bold visuals, though the series finale of the pin theft saga, The Hunted, treats the Hell Priest in a way that might needle purists. Some will praise the raw gamble, others may flinch. Across all 6 issues, Hellraiser Bestiary lands more blows than it misses. Peaks blaze, valleys sag, yet every chapter swings for wicked imagination. Readers who delight in horror anthologies or crave fresh spins on Barker's mythos should queue up and expect a bumpy ride, but a worthwhile one that will plunge you into the darkness. That's all we got for you this time, but if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.